Hey, welcome to the Preludes to Barcelona Service Design Disruptive. My name is Werner Puchert, and I'm part of the Service Design Disruptive team. And we are hosting a bunch of live conversations of many that hopefully we're going to be hosting as we run up to meet in person in Barcelona in October. Now, why are we doing this? Service design is in a strange and interesting moment. I think we can all agree on that. The field is changing, the work is changing. A lot of people are asking, like, what does still matters? Do I still matter? What needs to be challenged? Because not all of it's relevant. And where do they personally fit in, and what do they do next? This is really why service design is disrupted, and it's a really hard sequence of words for a South African to say. This is why the event exists. It's a 2-day gathering for people who don't just want more inspiration. So it's not just about inspiring things that you aspire to achieve, but it's really about having a sharper conversation, like around what's happening in the industry and in the field. Hopefully develop some clearer choices and a stronger sense of direction of where we're going together. The event takes place 15 and 16 October in Barcelona, which I'm very excited about. And also we forget to say sometimes, and this is important, as part of the Barcelona Design Week, which brings all kinds of benefits as well. They're helping us a lot. You can find tickets and sign up for updates at sddisrupted.com. Please go check that out. Join our newsletter. We're going to be sending a lot of that out. We have a whole bunch of board members coming on board. We have a whole ton of new speakers also that we need to announce. I can't keep up, and the newsletter is where we're going to announce a lot of those things first, and also when there's ticket price updates and that kind of stuff. But that's not why we're here today. This is a prelude to Service Design Disrupted. We want to have conversations with some interesting people as we head towards Barcelona. And today I'm super excited to have Arne van Oosterom joining me. He has more than 20 years of working experience in design thinking, service design, creative leadership, and learning. He's the founder of Future Skills Academy, some of entity that is helping us, and it's one of our partners here at Service Design Disrupted, and we are very grateful for that. And he focuses on helping teams and organizations build skills, mindsets, and also the confidence to work in this changing world. So I think it's very apt to have Arne here, and let's bring him into the show. Arne, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us today for this conversation.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Cool. And if I may, right, just to jump in to cut you off there, because I want to set you up so that we can get into this conversation. As if anybody's noticed that we have this title, Crisis, What Crisis? And I blame you for that. But when you look at design and service design today, does it feel like there's a crisis? Is it in transition? Or are we just going through another messy chapter?
Well, it's interesting. Like I think the crisis is what crisis came up as an image in my head, really, because it's a record by Supertramp, right? And you see this sunbathing person sitting in the middle of this, this chaos in this kind of doomsday scenario, and so it kind of represents to me this feeling of, you can be like in your own little bubble and everybody is really happy. So say service design, for instance, and everybody's is talking service design and happy doing service design. And then the outside world, outside of your bubble, actually really changed. You haven't really noticed it. So that's one angle you can kind of take on that. The other is that, to your question, are we in a crisis? I think we are in a crisis. I'm not sure if you could say service design is in a crisis. We're part of it. I mean, we are part of the world. So if the world is in crisis, everyone's in crisis. Business is in crisis. Is it imminent? Is it? I think we're actually at the start of a much bigger, if you want to call crisis. I don't want to be an alarmist, by the way. It sounds like our alarm is like,
everything's going to die.
That's not really what I mean. Yeah, everybody, let's hope not. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, I mean, we all feel, we all feel there's something going on. There's something happening. We hear it. Of course, there's a war going on in Ukraine and in the Middle East, and AI is making us like nervous. Some people are losing their jobs. Is it because of AI? We're not really even sure. All that stuff is happening. We don't know what the future holds for us. So is that a crisis? It's a moment of getting, it's a moment, I see it more as and again, to this kind of album cover, I think it's more of a moment of chaos.
Yeah.
There's chaos around us. And if we don't open our eyes to that chaos that is around us, we don't see it, if we don't acknowledge it, we're going to miss out on all these also great opportunities, because chaos is the moment of creativity. Is where we go like, oh, it's not a fun time. It's not like, yay, chaos, but it is like, it's there. We have it. Okay, how can we see patterns that we can kind of use to build something new? And I think that's kind of the feeling that I have
May
about
I
that
may
title.
may I interrupt you a little bit and use a very corporate term and say,
I'm
uh,
counting.
yeah,
I'm counting
yeah,
on the fact that you're going to
yeah.
interrupt me
So,
next.
so, so Arne, if I may double click on that patterns comment that you've just made, right? Can you explain a little bit? Like, is this patterns that you're currently seeing, or is it something that you think we need to become more attuned to? Can you talk a little bit about the concept of patterns?
Yeah. So patterns are sort of, it's hard to explain. So patterns are also something that you feel. It sounds really vague, but we kind of, if you are kind of in tune with your intuition and your gut feeling, right? You go like, something feels off, something's wrong. And patterns mean like, 'cause if you see the patterns, right?
Yeah,
You know, like, oh, wait a minute, this is happening. But there are always patterns around us. So what are the patterns that we can use? Patterns are things like, hey, companies are starting to use AI, and some companies are firing people. What does that mean? A pattern would be, for instance, hey, in the context of service design, for instance, what we've seen is that service design started to become things like departments, or in my case, for instance, we noticed that all of a sudden because 20 plus years ago, we didn't talk about service designers. That wasn't a
yeah,
that wasn't a job title, and all of a sudden they became job titles, and it's like, that's interesting. What do we do with that? Does that mean something? So there are all these kind of little and bigger things that can mean something. And so it's kind of, you know, I say you recognize patterns, and what I try to say is that stuff is happening all the time. Sometimes you need to go fast. And I want to quote someone. It's from a book. It's called "Leadership is Language." I love this as a metaphor. So in the book Leadership is Language, there's this metaphor he uses where he says, if you are an open water swimmer and you want to go fast, you got to have your head down because you're going faster. If you're a competitive swimmer and in open water, have your head down because you're going faster, but you can't see where
yeah,
you're going. So in order to be able to see where you're going, you have to slow down. You have to stop, look around, and put your head up, and then you slow down. But then you know where you're going, right? You're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going into the wrong direction. So it is this,
I like that
you know,
analogy.
yeah, me too, because it kind of it's so relevant. I mean, everybody will recognize that we're going so fast, and we've been going faster and faster and faster because so I think we felt that we had to keep up with technology as humans, and before you know it, but we won't. We might try to become robots. We're not. We're gonna lose that fight. Actually, we need to slow down. And so when I say recognizing patterns is slow down, see where you're supposed to be going, right? Where are
Yeah,
you going? Is that and in strategy, for instance, there's a whole conversation around emergent strategy, right? So Roger Martin is one of those people who talks about this, where this idea of a strategy right now. I mean, can you come up with a strategy for your business the next, say, 4 years, 5 years? I don't think so. We don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow because there's going to be new, whatever, Claude or open
yeah,
AI version of something. And everybody's, oh, wow. And now everything changes or whatever. before I mean, we were hiring and training prompt engineers. I think but last week it was still a thing, and now it's gone, right? So how do you develop a strategy, long-term strategy? I don't think you can anymore. I think people are very nervous from the top of an organization all the way to the bottom of the organization. We're all really nervous about the future because we can't predict it, and we can't. And although we could never, but we can't even pretend that we can predict it. So emergent strategy is also about recognizing patterns. It's like you set a goal, you say, this is where we're going, this is what we are trying to achieve. But while you're going there, you keep an eye open and you slow down every now and then. You pause, you look around, you listen, and then you see other paths open up for you that are more valuable or more relevant or whatever. And you take that path, and that's okay.
I guess though, like if I may, like that's probably also what pure strategy should be, right? Because if you're just going to execute against something where you just do your head down and head towards it, then you're executing against a plan. It's not really a strategy. Am I seeing it the right way?
Yeah, but I mean, I think I think lots of people are confusing plans and strategies, and that's a whole different conversation. Do you actually know what a strategy is? I don't know. But the point is more that you want to achieve something. How do you get there, right? Yeah. And if you say this is how we get there, by the way, the book I just mentioned, Leadership is Language. The story he also tells us about this ship that sails from a port in somewhere in North America to South America, and there's a storm coming, and they where they're heading, and they just don't have the language to pause and to say, let's divert. They don't have the language for it. They have the transcript of the ship, of the crew and what they're talking about, and because they already decided on the route, this is what we're going to do, and nobody can challenge it. Nobody could say that's wrong, boss, or captain, or and they couldn't, and so they just go straight into the storm, and they all perish. It's a real story. And I just didn't have the language to say, stop.
Yeah.
No, this is wrong. We need to do so. So that is actually a leadership thing. It's a leadership question. We need to have different leadership. We have to have different kinds of organizations. And when we talk about a change, when we talk about service design, right? So I come from the school of thought where service design is a holistic approach.
Yes,
it's more like a systemic. It's like a systems thinking approach, if you will. And I'm kind of hesitating to say the word systems thinking because I know there's people out there that's not.
The purist is going to throw shoes at us. Yeah, you must be careful.
I know. I had a fight way back when I once said at a systems thinkers and systemic thinkers conference, I said, service design is really systemic thinking or systems thinking with emotions included. And they were like, no, no. It's not, it's like mathematics. It's like, anyway, but I was always also warned, by the way, and I still kind of, this is a really important warning. So one of those professors of systems thinking said to me, Arne, if you are going to use service design and develop service design, learn from the systems thinkers people, because we made it so complicated that although we're completely right, nobody knew what to do with it. So when we went into the organization, went to the board of directors and said, here, we have everything for you to kind of be a better organization or whatever, using our methodology and our kind of thinking. They were like, I have no clue what you're talking about. So don't make it too complicated. Keep it simple.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we want to overcomplicate things a little bit too much. Other thing is also, I don't know, I just want to also acknowledge some of our viewers, right? Because I promised myself I'm going to do a better job at looking what's going on in the comments. And we have 2 comments or 3 comments so far. ETR Popes chimed in. I'm not going to repeat what she said. But then also we have Deb Haas, who mentioned, and I think it's in relation to your comments around, lifting your head up and looking, as she said, like, we're going to have to be more human than ever before, which I think is an interesting statement. And then also the machine will be doing the machine tasks. that humans have been burdened with too long. So I think it's kind of that perspective of that we need to find a balance, or understand that humans are still involved in these things, right? I probably focusing more on the kind of AI threat. But I also want to probably mention to you that I don't think necessarily the conversation is just about technology, right? I think a lot of stuff that you're touching on there's a broader change. For me, there's been this conversation started sticking its head up, like even before AI started. I mean, we were joking before the stream about how we were playing with kind of AI art, and I mean, this conversation started way before that already.
Oh, listen, I think that we have started talking about this, like, well, at least I have started talking about this in the early 2000s. You know, and with me, quite a large community of people, and we got to know each other because of social media started kind of happening, and we started connecting. But this idea of this iterative, human-centric way of problem solving, you know, lots of these languages started appearing, and to me, it's a language because it's, you know, service design. You could say it's a set of tools, but service design didn't invent any tools, didn't invent any methodologies. It was just a language, so we can talk to each other. We can collaborate. But at the same time, there was design thinking, there was UX, there was a lean startup, there was agile, and we came from, you know, Six Sigma and all that. And so, I mean, right. So, and by the way, which is still around, and, you know, and waterfall is still around. I mean, nothing disappears. These are languages that are you know, attempts, especially service design and design thinking, we attempted to create a common language so we can talk to each other, so we can work together to improve the things that we were doing, or you know, whatever the goal was. But we were able to talk to each other, and language creates a reality. And the problem is with languages, or not a problem really, it's just the way languages work. They evolve. They have to evolve.
Yes.
If a language doesn't evolve, it either dies or you start completely misunderstanding each other. I mean, I think you speak Afrikaans, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I speak a derivative of Dutch, right? Like it evolved from Dutch and other mixtures, yeah.
Which is such a great example of how, you know, if you separate languages, they will evolve differently. And I can still understand quite a lot of Afrikaans.
Ons kan lekker saam praat. Dis heel gezellig, jy weet.
Ja, dat is heel goed. Ja, dat is heel leuk. Heel leuk om te doen. Yeah, so we could understand each other, but you already feel there's like a, you know, we're growing, you know, into different directions. And I think that is the danger of languages if you don't keep talking to each other. If you don't so for instance, I was part of the sort of within service design, we also had sort of the service dominant logic people, which I think is a better language than the service design language. And so I was more of the kind of, and I think we did some, you know, you guys at the conference did some research into sort of what kind of conversation, what kind of topics are relevant. One of the things from the research came that you have like these religious people in the service design movement, which I am. Like for me, it was like a movement and a mindset, and so service dominant logic was sort of this holistic kind of systemic thing, and about value co-creation, and which I don't know where that went, and so it just kind of disappeared as far as I can tell. Anyway, but again, that was an attempt for a language.
Yeah, and if I may, like I'm cutting off again, and because I want to share something with you, and I promise myself I'm not going to talk so much, because the thing is, I speak to people like you, I get excited and I'll waffle on. But I wanted to share something new, because you were talking about these language things, and I can reflect on that, because, for example, moving to Switzerland, and you have Swiss German and German, and when you speak it in a certain way, people go like, "Oh, we can hear he's a foreigner." I also experienced that where, for example, in Poland, if you speak Polish, there are people who are very purist around how you speak Polish, and I can appreciate it. But the way that I see it as a South African, for example, I mean, we had a very interesting history. Some of it's very sad, some of it's very positive. And I remember when I started working in a more professional environment. I mean, South Africa has 11 official languages. So when you walk into a boardroom and you have a meeting, you're going to have a guy over there who can hardly speak English. He actually speaks a different language, African language, which I don't speak. So naturally, we kind of find each other in the middle by speaking English and using different words. And if you listen to that, you go like, what the hell are these guys? Like, there is no pure language there. But the thing is, everybody from their backgrounds found this common kind of way to communicate. So what became important is not the semantics of the language, is to understand each other and to be able to work together. And I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, and I think I mean you can have a whole discussion about the importance of language and culture for a country and for you know for a society for sure. But I think but you know and that's also all true. But the function of language is that we understand each other. That's the whole point, right? If because and we are tribal by nature. You know, humans are tribal, and so I would love and to me you said we you know this service design and design thinking. I would have loved for those languages to become the common language that we spoke,
Yeah.
and so we could really understand each other. So the marketeers and the IT folks and the you know the HR people and the, you know strategists and whatever whomever is out there, we can all speak the same language. And partly, you know, everybody's doing journey mapping right now, and you know everybody talks about personas right now. And I think so. You know, we've been successful. A little bit, except that it became sort of a department and it became sort of a specialized thingy that, you know, it's sort of like, and that, I don't know if there's any Star Trek fans out there, but for me, Star Trek, kind of the Borg kind of is like the corporate
That
and
big
it
cube comes in.
assimilates. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. The cube, and then it assimilates you, right? And so surface design got assimilated. It became a department, and to me, you know, in a company, either everyone is a service designer or no one is, because it's about a value network. It's about co-creation of value,
Yeah.
and you're all part of it. And so by creating that as a separate entity, you basically, you know, you kill it really, because it becomes this odd thing. And for the special projects or the special people do stuff. You know, I think that um, I don't think so I don't want to be naive. So I would love to have a common language, and right now I'm first part of a group that are teaching EDGI, which is it's also an attempt for a common language. So there's lots of these kind of attempts out there to create this common language. I don't want to be too naive about this. I think that if you look at history, you look at sort of how people behave, we are tribal, and we might never really get to a common language that we all speak and all accept, because people want to kind of own a piece of it. They want to productize it because because we're in this system of, you know, you have to kind of sell stuff. And, you know, anyway, it makes sense that it's going to be difficult to really create a common language for business, if you will.
Yeah.
Because we're tribal, so I think it might be naive to even attempt that. But I would say it's the attempt, and it's the continuous conversation we have together. And this is why this conference is important. The conference is, and I, you know, I hope it's not just service designers talking about service design to
Yeah.
service designers, because that's the most terrible thing that can happen. I think it should be a broader conversation, and I think that is the thing we need. And I'll tell you, I was part of a design thinking conference uh, that was organized by the D School many years ago, and it was a wonderful conference. Um, you know, I met amazing people, but it was a moment where I looked around and I thought, where are my service design people? Because, you know, they're a different tribe,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing. It is the same thing. All these languages are the same. They're all iterative learning by doing languages. You know, it's this attempt to kind of create kind of tribes, basically. You know, and it has a reason. There's a commercial reason for it. There are all kinds of reasons for it. It's nice to belong to a family, and we're all kind of, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But I think continuously trying to break those walls, and
Yeah.
I think generalists, so service designers, whomever they are, people who are actively trying to kind of improve the world, human-centric designers, human-centric problem solvers, and specifically and I think most of them will be generalists. So as generalists, I think those are the people that we're going to need, because those are the people, when we talk about patterns, generalists are people who see patterns. They are in the space in between. They go like, huh, I
Yeah,
like to be
connecting
part of
the
all the
different
little.
silos together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to quickly also acknowledge two more comments because what you're saying is resonating, Arno. So we're going in the right direction here. So shout out to Agatha or Aga. I know her as Draw the Words, awesome person who visualizes how people communicate, who echoes the context of kind of having a common language. Then we have Nadia, who mentioned, I completely agree that service design needs to be about capacity building through the work, not just the result of the work. And then finding your tribe by choice is what Agatha also added in the comments. So I think it's resonating. People are agreeing. But if people disagree, because I know you always invite a good debate, Arno, please jump into the comments and tell us if you're if you
Yeah,
have
do. I don't have answers. I have questions. I'm pro.
perspectives.
I'm pro. I'm perspective. I have opinions,
Yeah.
and I'm pro prototyping. And I like to try stuff out. I go like, let's try this and let's try that. And that's what we're. This is the moment to do that, by the way, because you recognize what works, and we know that.
Yeah.
If people are listening, everybody knows that. We learn by doing. You learn how to walk. By falling down, and that's how you do it. If you want to ride a bicycle, you've never ridden a bicycle before, you're going to fall down. That's how it works, right? And so, by the way, and if we kind of link it a little bit to the current moment of AI, kind of being integrated into our work and life,
Yeah.
don't skip that. Don't skip the painful moments of growth and learning, because you're gonna kind of you're gonna be really dumb if you do it, because you
Yeah. Don't
stop
close your
using
eyes,
your.
right? I mean, this is
Yeah, but you're
opportunity.
going to stop using that muscle if you
Yeah.
want to kind of create something, go through the process, because it's about the process, right? It's not just about the result. AI can help you make things quicker and easier and whatever, for sure. I love it. I mean, I have dyslexia. It helps me with many things.
Yeah.
So I think that so to my attempt for a language, evolving the language. I'm not saying anything about something wrong with service design or design thinking language. I use all of them, by the way, as a generalist. I don't care what you talk, what the client speaks, what the people I talk. If I have to speak lean startup, I'll talk lean startup. We mesh these things up anyway. I mean, there's no pure
Yeah.
language.
It's yeah.
So right, I think it's all there, but I'm using more. I'm looking at sort of what traditionally you would call soft skills. I think those are the things that we have to. So the human skills, critical thinking,
Yeah.
creative thinking, emotional intelligence. Those are the skills, or the things that we as humans, first of all, make us unique, are not replaceable by technology. And I think those are the things we're going to need the most, because
Yes.
we're going to have to kind of collaborate. People are not going anywhere, right? We're not. I don't think anybody's leaving. So we are going to have to deal with a changing world, and how to be ready for this. And we again, by the way, we just talked about that, but I think if you have been being trained and being kind of working in these iterative ways of working, service design thinking, what have you, you have been trained to be ready for this moment, because we're at the beginning
Yeah,
of
it's
a
more
big
true than we
crisis.
did.
We are the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
We are the people that we can deal with this, right? I mean, if you're a linear thinker, and you just did if you've done your MBA, and that's all and I'm talking about traditional MBA, you're going to be very nervous. I don't, as a creative, I'm like, interesting. This is
Yes,
a
I mean, and this is the thing that I don't know, because I thought we skipped this part, but I wanted I might have, but I think this is also because in our pre-conversation, you touched on the edge of chaos as a term that you used a
yeah.
couple of times. Is this what you think about? Is this something that, like, inherently as a designer or someone who works in the creative field, this is something that we should be prepared for? Can you talk a little bit about this concept of the
Yeah.
edge of chaos?
So the edge of chaos basically is how things evolve, right? So it means that everything in nature goes from order to chaos and back to order and to chaos again. Now, that's just the way things go. We are part of nature, so there's always chaos, and it's not a It's not like everything is in chaos, but parts of our lives, parts of, society, whatever is, there's always chaos somewhere. There's always order somewhere. But this concept of chaos and order, if you are, at the moment of where it's most chaotic, it's a dangerous moment, because if it gets too chaotic, the ecosystem will collapse. But it's also the moment where we are as humans at our most creative. And also, by the way, nature is at its most creative. And this is where you go like, oh, this is interesting. That's an interesting thing. What if I put this together? So this is where you recognize patterns. It's not a moment where you kind of, it's not a, it might be a nervous moment, a moment with lots of anxiety, but it is a moment where we are at our most creative. And then you start to shape things and put some order into it. And then you create structure, and then you create order. Now, if it's too ordered, too structured, it also dies. The ecosystem also dies because it becomes disconnected. And so we need to have a little bit of chaos again. Everything if you go through history, go through whatever in nature, this is how things evolve. And so recognize where, if we talk about business and our society and the world, there are moments of chaos. um, I think those are, again, we rather have a very comfortable and safe life, I guess. So chaos is not always, it doesn't feel as a positive,
Yeah.
but it's just the way it is. So acknowledge it, see it, embrace it, and don't be scared of it, and don't judge it. Go like, huh, interesting. What can I learn? What's happening? Be open, listen, open your ears, open your eyes, open your senses, feel what's happening, talk to people, listen to people, have lots of conversations, bring people together at conferences and, and all those things, and listen, because stuff is happening all the time, especially now. We're at a crossroad. I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years' time, we look back at this moment in time, and we go like, oh,
Yeah.
right, that's what was happening. We can't see it now. And so for me, service design and design thinking functioned as, I always said, something's happening. I don't know what it is. It's not service design, it's not design thinking. Those are not the changes, but it's my way to kind of ride the wave. I don't know what the change is because it's too big to see, but there's something going on, something's changing, and I need a language, which is probably like a surfboard, basically, to surf
Yeah.
this wave, right? To stick with it, because I'm curious about it, and I don't care about, whether it's called service design, design thinking, or
Yeah, our
whatever.
surfboards
That's
might look
so
a little
not
bit
relevant.
different, but it still gets us there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so don't kind of hold on to this language, because it needs to evolve. It needs to change. And language, words shape reality. We don't underestimate language. If you don't have a word for something, it doesn't exist, right? You can see that in different cultures where they have different words, for things that you don't have in your own language, like for instance, I don't know. There's lots of words in German, I think, that we don't have in Dutch. So it doesn't exist. So you can't feel it. In Japanese, there's a word for stuff that we can't even experience because we
Yeah.
don't have a word for it, right? So I don't underestimate the power of words, and don't take it for granted. And just be aware of the fact that, we always create sort of a system where we productize things. So if we are in business, right? This is about business. We're doing business. So I'm a consultant, and I need to sell stuff, right? So I need to package what I say so my clients can say, oh, I can buy this from you for X amount of money, right? So that system it's a dangerous system, because how can I sell a mindset? Right? It's so difficult,
Yeah.
right? So this is what happened a lot with design thinking, for instance, where it was supposed to be a mindset, an attitude, a behavior, a way
Yeah,
of
and it
creating
yeah,
space, right? So, and it became a fixed process with fixed
a
set of
recipe
tools.
a recipe for success. And then
Yeah, but
then
which
if
is
when it
nonsense.
flops, we go like, "What?"
Yeah. And then is that,
Then
oh,
it's
it
dead.
didn't work. Really? Yeah. And now it's dead. But how can something that evolves continuously because it's iterative, how
Yeah.
can it die? By the way, design thinking is not new. There's nothing new about it. It's been around forever and ever and ever. And you could argue, and I would, it's basically the scientific method. It's by learning by trial and error. That's what we do. That's how we learn. It's just a basic human way of learning things, right? And again, we put a language around it, and then we say, "Ooh, that's a new thing," and we put it in a box, and we put a ribbon, and we say, "Oh, we want to buy that for me?" And then people say, "Yeah, I'll buy the box." That's not how that works, right? I mean, it works for a while because it's like we play this game all the time, but really think about what is it we want to achieve? What do
Yes.
you need
Yeah.
to do? What do we need to do? I don't care what tools or methodologies you use, right? But it's difficult to sell. It's better to sell like, I'm a service designer and I have a set of tools and a methodology and they'll say, "Oh, have you evidence of that? And did you, in your last project, could you tell us what the ROI was?" And
Yeah, but I think this is where
you're like,
I don't know if it's my age or because as you become older, you start dealing with the older people in the business and making fun of older people. I'm one of them. But the thing is, I think the challenge that I guess one of the bigger challenges that we are facing, and sorted in my last engagement, is that there's this whole idea of ROI. And it's not necessarily like, I think the first thing you go like, oh, you need to prove to the CEO that you're making a profit. And I don't think it's true. I think what you're alluding to is like, what is the value you're delivering? Like, can you articulate the value that you delivering for other people in the business or helping other people succeed? I know I haven't been very good with that in my earlier career, and now I feel very pressured to be able to articulate it if I want business in the future.
We're in a cul-de-sac, right? So it's a dead end. I mean, nothing grows forever in nature, and we talked about, we're part of nature. Nothing grows forever in nature. How come we think businesses need to grow forever? It doesn't. You should be in balance.
Yeah.
It should be about balance with your surrounding, right? In an ecosystem, that's just the way it is. I mean, so if something needs to grow forever and ever and ever, I think we call that a cancer. And that is what is happening, but we don't see it because we somehow always tell ourselves we're not part of nature, which is so weird. We
Yeah, we're
really
standing
are.
outside observing it. We're not part
Yeah,
of
we're
it.
like, yeah, no, but and we have this shareholder value. We don't have like we talk about customer centricity and all that. There's no customer centricity in business. It's shareholder centricity. That's what we're dealing with,
Yeah.
right? Unless it's like a family company, right? That can be slightly different. But if you start a company now, so I'll do a prediction.
That's why
I'll
you're
make a
here.
prediction. Yeah. Okay. My prediction will be this. We're going to see companies are shrinking, right? They're shrinking and they won't grow back with, the same amount of employees because of AI or whatever reason they come up with, right? They won't. But what you will see is that there's going to be more and more smaller companies working together in a system, in an ecosystem. So we'll see more smaller companies, and we'll see more smaller companies that also will be run by people who kind of feel that the job, the work they do is part of their identity, and I want to do something meaningful. Now, I know there's always going to be other companies as well. There are going to be other just working for profit, and there are going to be scammers and all that for sure. But I'm just talking about normal people,
Good people like you and me and the people watching
yeah,
this.
good people. Yeah, exactly. And like, yeah, no. There's going to be more smaller companies, and I think that's a very good thing. Diversifying this because we feel this tension of being too dependent on these big companies that have too much power, and and it might feel like they have a lot of power, but maybe they don't because we can decide that they don't have it. you know, that's the future is not it's not a set in stone. We design it, and what makes us humans so amazing is and opposed to AI can kind of do all the stuff that we do, but only the stuff we already did, right?
Yeah,
Can't do
that's
the
true.
stuff we
Yeah.
haven't done yet, right? So, but we can our brains are amazing. We can imagine something and we can organize accordingly, which is like weird if you think about it, because everything is a construct, right? Like countries and companies and all that. We just made it up, like the economy. We made it up,
It's a
right? It's
story.
just stuff. It's a
Yeah.
story. It's exactly. These are stories. So we can come up with other stories. And I think you touch on something really important, storytelling. We can come up with new stories, and service design is also a beautiful story, but it needs to evolve.
It needs a new
We
chapter.
have to kind of,
Yeah.
it's a new chapter, exactly, and maybe it's even a new book
Yeah.
about service design, and we're writing it together. But just be aware of it, that is your, I think,
Yeah.
if you want to call yourself a service designer, fine. I give up. I fought that thing for too long. If you want to call yourself that, fine. But write that book with us.
Yeah.
Write
That story might be like Game of Thrones. Some of your favorite characters might die. Like it's
Yeah.
painful.
Well, it's a little
So
bit more.
I don't know, with this silly comment, I just want to take a quick break where I want to put my friend, my colleague Sylvia, in the speaker seat, and I want the viewers to see if they know where she's speaking from.
Barcelona, where service design disrupted will take place this October. I hope to see you here. Primer al cor, després la tècnica. Bye. Join the service newsletter and buy your tickets today at www.sddisrupted.com.
There we go. If you know where Sylvia was recording that from, please drop it in the comments. That's we're not doing Where's Wally, we're doing Where's Sylvia. So please do that, and also take a moment to just reintroduce my awesome guest, Arne van Oosterom, being an expert in design thinking, service design, also running his own business, founder of Future Skills Academy. Arne, thanks again for joining me here. We've spoken about a lot of things about the story of service design. One thing that I kind of skipped over, and I think it's a natural extension of what you're talking about, is that we spoke about that everybody in the organization should be designing services. You make many statements about that, and I would invite you to talk about that again a little bit. But then also, you spoke about that we need people to kind of fill the gaps and connect the dots. And I think this translates well back to you have a very strong perspective around, or at least some good thoughts around the role of facilitation in service design. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so service design, and I think also everybody who's kind of actively using design thinking and all that, I think a lot of us are also facilitators. And I kind of it's such an interesting thing that, for at least for me, because when I started facilitating, this is like 2000 and I know 6 or 7. I remember that because I came from a design agency, and I would kind of get a brief from a client, and then I would work with my team to develop a proposal, what have you. And all of a sudden, I was kind of working with my customers, and they would come up with the solutions and the ideas, and I would kind of facilitate them, which I really had to get used to that, because I was like, I have so many ideas, but I can't share it with them. So I wasn't really sure if I liked that, because I was like, but I have a great idea, but no, because they should own it. The customer, the team that I work with within the companies of my clients, they should feel the ownership of it, because they should take responsibility of it, and because they needed to implement the whole thing. So this, by the way, became also kind of a changing sort of path for me, opposed to not every service design agency or service design folks, but a lot of them started, they kind of stayed with the workshops. And I was started to think, if I do a workshop, right, and I facilitate a workshop, and everybody's high-fiving at the end because it's always great, and we do games and it's amazing, and we have lots of post-its and awesome for sure. But then nothing happens because
everybody's waiting for you to do it, Arne.
Yeah, right. Well, they don't want to really, because the reality of business is a little bit more difficult. It's more, it's not that you can just start implementing something. I did a project once, and we did a workshop with this wonderful sales team, and the outcome was that actually the company shouldn't have a sales team. And
yeah, that happens, right?
because it was about they really needed to spend more time and with their call center and really service their customers and not be on the clock as sort of salespeople, because that was really not helping them at all with building relationships. That was the outcome. And I remember the sales manager was part of that. His team was like, it's not really useful. I can't use this. Right. I know. I did a workshop once with the Dutch government about creating so it was actually about a new embassy in London, Dutch embassy in London, and the outcome was that actually embassies were of the past and they shouldn't really build a new embassy for millions and millions. And a guy who actually already bought the land was there, and he was not amused either, right? So I mean, that I think, if you've done these kind of workshops, you'll recognize that, right? You go like, you weren't there on time, it's too late, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing is that facilitation brought me to more a leadership function, where I thought, actually, you don't just facilitate a workshop, you facilitate the whole process. And maybe you as an outsider can't. Maybe me as a consultant, I'll be brought in for just a little bit of that. But I need to understand that this part should have a beginning before I come in, and after, after the workshop. I have to design that, or I have to make sure that that is clear with my customer, and I work with the customer to make sure that it's embedded, because otherwise, these workshops are not going to work, and everybody's going to be really annoyed. Again, a workshop that's not going to work. They're not going to do anything anyway, right? So in that sense, that's what we call innovation theater, right?
Totally,
I don't like innovation theater because I like to really have impact, and I like to do stuff. Now, all right, having said that, it's very negative. I know that I also met a lot of people who were in these workshops, and it really touched them, and they learned something new. So you plant seeds, and it's not like nothing happens, right? You change people, and that's beautiful too. But if you look at them more holistically, you're like, what did we actually achieve, right? What did you actually achieve? Did you actually change something impactful in the business? So that needs facilitation on a bigger scale. That needs leadership. And I think facilitation is a leadership function. And you, as a designer or a design thinker or a service designer, or whatever you want to call yourself, you have a leadership function. Maybe you're not in the hierarchy, but you are a leader, and I would call you a creative leader. Because facilitators are creative leaders. And a creative leader is someone who says, something, I had this option you never considered, and people are like, oh, that's it, I never thought about that. Or you're stretching the boundaries of what people think was possible. You go like, you can go there, you can do that. So creating that safe space for people to discover, to be creative. And I don't know a lot of companies, especially now, by the way, that have a psychological safe space for people to do things, to make mistakes, to try stuff. And you can't make mistakes. You can't learn anything new, and will never come up with anything new, right? And so that is your job. And I think if you call yourself a service designer, that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do.
And I wonder that like the two thoughts come up as I listen to you, because one thing is I forgot about it, and as you were talking about facilitation now, there's this one definition, and I actually hate it when people define things, but here I go, is that, but it just resonated with me, because for me, and I think it's true for me for the work I do, is that facilitation is not about being the superstar and designing the workshop and doing this and having people do kinds of tricks. Your job is to really remove obstacles to collaboration.
You're a servant leader. It's
Yeah.
servant
So
leadership.
whatever happens that stops the people in the room or wherever you are from having that collaboration and the conversation and connection and the safe space, your job is to remove that, to make sure that that happens. The other thing is also, as I listen to you, I think sometimes I've seen this, especially with younger designers, where the method, the canvas, the tool, and I'm a tool geek myself, becomes the thing. But actually, the thing is the conversation that it unlocks, the connection that people then have. So like if I listen to what you're explaining, it's like it's not about the journey map; it's about what the journey map allows you to see and what you're.
It's about the journey mapping.
Right? I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, it's about the activity, it's the collaboration you have with your colleagues, and making things explicit that were implicit, right? That's what you do, and that's why you need a facilitator, someone who can kind of lean in and say, what do you actually mean by that? Or so you need someone who creates that space and holds that space for people to make things explicit that are implicit. And the tools are just a way of getting you to do the things, right? And so although I really think that having sort of online tools for creating these kind of maps like Miro and Mural and what have you are amazing and wonderful, but if it replaces getting your team together and using your Post-its on the wall, because I mean, I know these Post-its are kind of you can say, oh, there they go again with their Post-its, but these are amazing tools. We are people, we're human, they're tactile. Don't forget that you're a human being. You can write on it, you can throw. I have dyslexia. I love them because I go like, oh, I think I misspelled that. Throw it away, right? You can move them around and all that. It's so simple, so basic, and that's why it's so great, right? And if you do that with the people that you with your team, and sure, you can do it online as well, but nothing replaces bringing people together and doing that. And having a facilitator simply means that there's someone who takes care of that space. Sometimes literally, right? Literally like, hey, maybe we should have some fresh air, because people don't think about it, right? Because they're focused on something. Or just someone who says, hey, I don't know, I sense a bit of sort of a low energy. I mean, oh yeah. So you're there to be the voice, to report back to them, to be the voice of the group. That's such an important function. That's so important. So I think a lot of the and again, I'm not talking about just workshops, because we kind of tend to think, oh yeah, these are all about workshops. It's not just about workshops, but this is just a new way, another way of working together. It's not a workshop. It's just how you work together. It's just how you have you shouldn't, I mean, in an ideal situation, in a ideal company, you don't have boring meetings anymore. No, you have lively conversations where you share thoughts, and this is a leadership function. It's a new style, a new culture in
I like what you're saying there.
Organization, right? I'm not talking about separate, let's go and rent a space and have a workshop this afternoon. No, I'm talking about this is a new way of working. This is how you work all day. And I'll tell you something. There was a friend of mine. He was working for it's actually a tech company, and they were all into design thinking, and so this friend of mine, and he said to me, Arne, something. I'll tell you something. So I'm in my office, and I'm mapping this thing, and I'm having really a good time, and I'm kind of making things. I'm using all the design thinking tools and all that. And he said, I'm so afraid that my manager comes in and says, what are you doing? Get back to work. Because he says, because I'm having fun.
Oh, heaven forbid, right? Yeah.
I feel I'm not supposed to have fun, right? So a workshop is that little moment where you're like, finally we can have some fun. Like, no, that should be the work.
That should be the work, for sure. I just want to also just echo here what Itzia added in the comments, because she said this is so important. There's no space for mistakes, learning, or safety in most companies at the moment. And I think you're just going to echo that, where sometimes I think we impose it on ourselves. Like, I don't want to shine because I'm having fun. Arne, I wanna put you on the spot because we are getting to the top of the hour. It's nearly time for. I know you had a long day of lots of talking, and now I drag you into another bunch of talking. I want to do a quick rapid fire, and hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, but like 3 short answers to 3 hopefully short questions. So the first question.
Short answers is not my strong suit. But
I'll try and moderate you, but I can't cut your microphone off. I can just go. Anyway, so the first question is like, but just like from the gut, because I'm not going to hold you to this one. I'm holding you to the previous prediction for smaller companies. This one I won't. These 3. So what skills would you deepen right now?
critical thinking, decision making, creative thinking.
Awesome. What would you? Okay, what would you stop worrying about?
AI.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. What would you stop defending? Perhaps not you personally, because I think you've spoken about it, but in general, as a service designer, what would you stop defending?
Yeah, sort of human-centric, soft skills.
Great.
That's
cool.
Yeah.
Arne, I'm going to wrap this up. Before I do, though, is there anything that you wanted to share that you think I didn't touch on? Because I think it's important that, because we've covered a whole swath of things here this evening.
No, I think we talked about it. I have no clue. I don't know what we talked about anymore. I don't have a list.
I think it was good. Notes. I mean, but
no,
we'll get feedback from the people.
Yeah.
Arne,
but I'll tell you sort of just one last note because of the conference. We need. I said this a couple of times. I really think that having this conference for the community is so important. We don't have enough of these moments. And I really, really hope that, it's not just service designers talking about service design to service designers, but I do think that we need to continue that conversation, for a long time. So I hope this conference is going to, not be the last one. We're going to come back to next year, but also after the conference, that we find a way to kind of continue that conversation together.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay.
No, for sure. I think this is something that we've spoken about a lot. It's in top of mind because it can't just happen. That's also why we're doing these pre-conversations. And it's easier said than done. I think it's also winning the trust and the confidence of the folks who join us and even the folks who don't. To build this forward. But that's why we have people like you on board to help us with that, Arne. And with that, I also want to say thank you for joining us today. I know you're also part of the board, so you're never too far away for another conversation. I know that. So looking forward to, if not sooner, seeing you in Barcelona in person. Yeah. Thanks for making the time, sir. There you have it. Arne van Oosterom, go check out Future Thinking Academy. And by the way, we didn't speak about this, but I actually got my design thinking certification from Arne back in the day when I had less grayer hair than this, just to show. And I didn't realize that. I only realized that when we were having our pre-conversation to this live stream, and shows you the impact that we as designers have on each other and the potential of change that you can drive with your practice. So once again, before I lock down the stream, I want to thank you for watching. If you got this far, remember all the questions will be answered even after the live stream. And I have to say that the tickets are available. You can go to sddisrupted.com to buy the tickets online now. Also, join our newsletter. You can sign up on the website, sddisrupted.com, and be in touch with everything that's happening, including in our live streams and also the event. Very excited. Thanks for the folks who jumped in the comments and supported the live stream. And next week, we'll be back with, you'll see my face, but I'm very excited that one of my colleagues will be interviewing one of our speakers, Rachel Dietkus, which is also going to be a cool conversation. I'm really excited about that. So make sure to check out our page on LinkedIn and on YouTube to stay in touch with our future conversations. And with that, have a great evening wherever you are, and catch you in the comments.